Hello, this is Hwan San Sinim, and welcome to part 2 of our special two-part series concerning the question, is there life after death? In our previous episode, part 1, we considered the question, do ghosts really exist? In today's episode, part 2, we will consider the question, is there really such a thing as reincarnation? Does some part of our human consciousness survive our physical death? Does some part of our consciousness move on to a rebirth in a new body and a new life? Let's look at the information and research that has been done on this question together. Now, there are a lot of people out there who believe that the religious doctrine of reincarnation is only held in the two Indian religions of Buddhism and Hinduism. But this actually is not the case. The truth is that the idea and teachings about reincarnation have been held and studied and believed in nearly all cultures and religious traditions in human history. The doctrine of reincarnation actually shows up in many unexpected cultures and religious settings. For example, ancient Greece. There are many people, especially in the modern West, who associate ancient Greek culture with logic and reason and philosophy. And they likewise think that something like reincarnation is kind of an irrational belief or superstitious belief. So they may be surprised to hear that some of the great ancient Greek philosophers actually believed in the idea of reincarnation. For example, 500 to 600 years before the Common Era, the ancient Greek philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras, who invented the famous Pythagorean theorem, famously publicly supported the idea of reincarnation. Similarly, Plato, in his account of the life of Socrates, called the Phaedo, discusses the idea of reincarnation at length and considers it a very plausible theory. So we find the idea of reincarnation being accepted in classical Greek culture and philosophy. Similarly, in ancient Norse religious mythology, Norse mythology, of course, deals with figures, famous figures like Thor and Odin and Loki and so forth. But in Norse mythology, we hear stories of heroes and lovers who die tragic deaths and then are reborn in new forms to meet each other once again. Even in Judaism, with its belief in one God and its teaching that we live only one life, even in Judaism, particularly in the tradition of the Kabbalah, we see some acceptance and discussion about the possibility of reincarnation. For example, in the Zohar, which is a series of writings considered one of the foundational works of the Kabbalist tradition, the idea of reincarnation is discussed at length. For example, the 16th century Kabbalist rabbi, Isaac Luria, was said to have what we would now call psychic powers and was said to be able to see the past lives of other people. Even in Christianity, which famously rejects the idea of reincarnation, even in Christianity, in the Gnostic or mystical Christian sects, there is an acceptance of the idea of reincarnation. Now, of course, mainstream Christianity has always rejected the idea of reincarnation. And throughout the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance period, belief in the idea of reincarnation was considered a heresy, and reincarnation was not a serious topic of study in European culture. But beginning in the 19th century, the idea of reincarnation re-enters European culture and thought, because at that time, particularly in the late 19th century, Hindu and Buddhist texts from Asia were being actively imported into Europe and being studied by some of the great philosophers, artists, and scholars of that time. And so this became a very serious topic of speculation, and there are a number of very famous thinkers who thought about reincarnation as a reality very seriously. These thinkers include, for example, Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher, Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, William James, the American psychologist considered one of the founders of modern psychology, the American poet Walt Whitman, the American poet and philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson, and finally Henry David Thoreau, the beloved American philosopher. So around the late 19th century, we see elements of Asian religious thought and doctrine entering into European culture and mixing with that culture. And by the end of the 19th century, there began to arise new religions that blended traditional Western religious thought and teachings with Asian ones. And perhaps the most famous of these kinds of organizations or religions is the Theosophical Society. One way or the other, by the 20th century, probably this type of interaction between traditional Western religious thinking and Asian teachings resulted in the so-called New Age religious movement, which continued to blend religious teachings of different traditions and continued to produce new religions, many of which accept the idea of reincarnation. So what's going on now in the 21st century? How widespread and influential is the idea of reincarnation now in the modern world? Well, surveys tell us that of the entire population of the world, 51% believe in some version of the doctrine of reincarnation. So that's just slightly more than half of the world's population believing in reincarnation. Interestingly enough, in the United States, a 2009 survey performed by the Pew Forum on Religion and Public Life has found that not only do roughly a quarter of all Americans living in the United States believe in reincarnation, but about 24% of American Christians also believe in reincarnation. Now that's a very surprising fact, but the truth is the idea of reincarnation seems to be spreading within modern society, so much so that recently the New York Times prominently featured an article discussing this widespread belief in reincarnation. The article was entitled Remembrances of Lives Past, written by Lisa Miller and published on August 27, 2010. And in this article, Lisa Miller discusses a number of prominent figures who believe in reincarnation and speculates that maybe modern Americans have become somehow disenchanted or at least uninspired by traditional Western religious teachings and are looking for answers to their life questions elsewhere. She cites that the 2008 American Religious Identification Survey found that 15% of modern Americans profess no affiliation with any religion whatsoever. And this is basically double the number that was found 20 years earlier in 1990. So we see this new openness, this ongoing openness to alternative teachings of other religious traditions and a growing acceptance of the idea of reincarnation in the modern world. Now, Buddhism, of course, has always held to the doctrine of reincarnation. There are many versions of this doctrine. So why don't we enter into meditation together now, and why don't we listen to Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us the Buddhist theory of rebirth.
생야 일편 분교 사야 일편 분멸이로다. 자체 본무시리요 상생사 거래 여견이로다. 사실 사람이 세상에 태어난 것은 흰 구름이 허공에 일어난 것과 같고, 그 흰 구름이라는 것은 얼마 동안 있다가 바람에 날려서 결국은 흩어져 없어져 버린 것인데, 사람이 과거에 지은 업에 따라서 빈부, 귀천, 여러 가지 형태로 이 세상에 태어났다가 한평생 좋은 일도 하고 좋지 않는 일도 하고 이런저런 온갖 일을 산다고 살기 위해서 산 것이 그 자체가 생사업을 짓는 것이고, 지은 업에 따라서 육도윤회를 하게 되는 것입니다. 그런데 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫지 못한 사람에게는 분명히 생사가 있고 육도윤회가 있고 빈부 귀천이 있고 그렇습니다마는, 생사 없는 진리를 깨달은 분상에는 흰 구름이 일어났다 꺼진 것이나 사람이 이 세상에 살다가 죽은 것이나 육도윤회하는 것이 다 열반의 진리의 세계에서 일어나는 추나추동이 돌아간 것과 같은 다 그대로 정멸상이다 이것입니다. 그런데 진리를 깨닫지 못한 사람에게는 분명히 생사 고통이 있고 흥망성쇠의 고통이 있고, 그러니 우리가 부처님의 법을 의지해서 부처님의 법을 믿고 실천을 해가지고 생사 없는 진리를 깨달아야만 이 생사윤회 속에서 생사윤회를 해달하는 그 진리를 우리는 체달을 해야 할 필요가 꼭 있는 것입니다. 부처님도 우리와 같은 사람이시고 역대 조사도 우리와 같은 사람입니다. 사람이면서 생사 없는 열반의 경지를 평생을 살아가시는, 그러면서도 그 속에서 중생 교화를 하신 부처님이시고 역대 조사인 것입니다. 사람이 이 세상에 태어나서 한평생 살다가 죽으면 지은 업에 따라서 생사윤회를 한다고 말씀을 했습니다마는, 깨닫지 못한 사람은 그 생사윤회를 면할 길이 없습니다. 착한 일을 하면은 천당에 가서 복을 받고, 자기가 지은 만큼 복을 다 받으면 다시 또 떨어지게 되고, 악한 짓을 하면은 지옥악의 축생 사막도를 윤회를 하게 되는데, 이것은 아무도 면할 길이 없습니다. 이 생사윤회 속에서 생사해탈하는 법은 최상승법이요 정법인 내가 나를 깨닫는 참선을 수행해야만 되는 것입니다. 육바라밀을 닦는다, 모든 좋은 일을 한다, 그거 다 좋습니다. 좋은 일이나 좋은 일, 착한 일을 해가지고 천당에 가봤자 그것은 영원성이 없습니다. 지은 만큼 복을 다 받으면 하늘에다 활을 쏘면은 활이 올라간 만큼 올라가면 다시 땅에 떨어진 것과 같아서 착한 일을 해서 천당에 가고 부자가 되고 해서 복을 받는다고는 하나 그 영원성이 없기 때문에 거기에다가 우리는 생명을 다 바칠 필요는 없는 것입니다. 기왕 하려면 착한 일을 하되 착한 일을 하는 데에서 만족을 하고 내가 좋은 일을 했다고 흐뭇한 생각을 갖는 것은 악한 일을 한 것보다는 낫지만은 불법은 거기에 그치는 것이 아닙니다. 생사 속에서 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫는다고 하는 것은 무슨 말이냐 하면은 우리 중생은 끊임없이 무엇인가 보고 무엇인가 듣고 무엇인가 하게 됩니다. 하면은 중생이 하는 일은 전부 유의법이요 유루법입니다. 유의법이라 하는 것은 어떤 원인을 지으면 그 원인에 의해서 어떤 결과가 나타나는 것인데 그것은 끝없는 되풀이 그것을 되풀이하면서 살아가고 금생뿐만이 아니라 영원히 그런 것을 되풀이하고 고통 속에서 험에다가 생사윤회를 하는 것이니 부처님께서는 그것을 참아볼 수가 없어서 이 세상에 출연을 하셔가지고 생사 없는 법을 설하신 것이 됩니다. 그러면 어떻게 하면은 생사 속에서 생사를 면하느냐? 무엇을 보거나 무엇을 듣거나 좋은 일을 당하거나 나쁜 일을 당하거나 즉각 대관절 이 몸뚱이 끌고 다니는 이 이름이 무엇인가? 이 대관절 이름이 무엇이냐고 일어나는 생각을 돌이켜서 일어나는 생각이 일어나는 근본을 돌이켜서 관조를 하는 것입니다. 아무 특별한 것도 없고 어려울 것도 없고 지극히 간단한 일인데 이것이 바로 생사 속에서 생사해탈하는 진리를 깨닫게 되는 첩경이라 하는 것입니다. 무엇을 보되 봄으로서 무슨 생각이 일어나면 그걸 가지고 두 번째, 세 번째, 네 번째 생각으로 자꾸 생각이 발전을 해가지고 무엇인가 행동이 나타나게 되는 것인데 그런 것을 하루에 수천 번, 수만 번 되풀이 되다가 한 해가 지나가고 한 평생이 지나가서 결국은 나쁜 짓을 한 대가로 지옥에 가고 조금 착한 일을 하면은 복을 받고 천당에 가는데 그런 것은 불법에서는 그 속에서 바로 나를 찾아 참 나를 찾아서 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫는 것인데 이 무엇고 무엇을 보아도 이 무엇고 무슨 소리를 들어도 이 무엇고 속이 상할 때도 이 무엇고 기쁠 때도 이 무엇고 사람이 태어났다고 말을 들어도 이 무엇고 사람이 죽어갔다는 말을 들어도 이 무엇고 죽어가는 현장을 보고도 이 무엇고 이 세상은 생로병사와 성주괴공과 흥망성쇠가 끊임없이 되풀이되고 있는데 그 속에서 항상 이먹고 화두를 들고 살아가는 것입니다. 사람이 살아가면 일을 안 할 수가 없고 무엇인가 봐야 하고 들어야 하는데 무엇인가 또 먹어야 하고 신진대사가 이루어지는데 그 속에서 이 먹고 화두를 들면 그 속에서 생사 없는 진리로 나아가는 길이 거기에서 트여나가는 것입니다.
So, in considering the question of reincarnation, we can ask ourselves, why is it that even in religious traditions like Christianity during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period, where belief in reincarnation was considered an heresy, and even in the modern age, when mainstream scientists so strongly oppose the idea of reincarnation and the survival of consciousness outside of the body? Why is it that the doctrine of reincarnation doesn't just disappear? How does it survive through the ages, even in cultures and climates that are very strongly opposed to it? And the answer to that question is that in all times of history, there are always people who claim to have memories of past lives. For example, in the New York Times article that I mentioned earlier by Lisa Miller called Remembrances of Lives Past, the article begins with an interview with a psychiatrist named Dr. Paul DeBell, who practices psychiatry on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. He was trained at Cornell University, obviously one of the most famous universities in the world. And he openly claims in this interview that he can remember his past lives. He remembers being a caveman, a Tibetan monk, and a German citizen during World War II who conscientiously objected to the genocidal program of the Nazis and tried to help Jewish refugees. So it's pretty astonishing that someone of his academic background and his level of societal success would come out and risk his professional reputation by openly claiming to remember past lives. So that's a very striking example. But we can ask ourselves anyway, but is this scientifically true? Have there been scientific studies of cases of reincarnation? And as I mentioned in part one of this series, it's very, very difficult to study these kinds of questions about the survival of consciousness after death through direct experimentation. You can't make experiments to see whether ghosts exist or whether people become reborn. You can't kill somebody and then wait to see what happens next. But what you can do is you can use indirect forms of investigation. And in the field of reincarnation studies, there are two basic ways of trying to find out whether claims of past life memories are true or not. The first is a form of detective work, actually, where you analyze all of the available data and try to measure the strength of the evidence that's presented. And probably one of the most famous and influential investigators who use this method is a psychiatry professor named Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was active in the 1950s and 1960s. Now, for a little background information, from around the year 1900 to 1960, there began to appear in newspapers and magazines and books many reincarnation stories, mostly from India, where people claimed to have past life memories. And Ian Stevenson became interested in this topic, and he decided to investigate these cases. And after investigating these cases for some time, in 1960, he published an article in which he claimed that upon review of the evidence presented in these reincarnation cases, he believed that he made this claim that the evidence is strong enough to recommend further research. After publishing that article, he went on to investigate literally thousands of cases. And he wrote about this again in 1966 when he published his book, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation. Now, the research method that Ian Stevenson used is very similar to the kinds of analytical methods used both by lawyers and historians. What he would do is he would go find the subject who claimed to have past life memories, and he would interview them as well as any first-hand witnesses. And especially the most important informants, he would interview multiple times to check for consistency in their accounts and also to go through all of the details possible. Then after he did that, he would go and try to find supporting public documents like birth certificates, hospital records, post-mortem medical exam records. And if he found that the accounts of the subject, first-hand witnesses, and public records all were consistent with one another, he considered this supportive evidence for the existence of reincarnation. Now, what Ian Stevenson found was that in a typical case of past life memory, it was almost always a child. This is interesting. It was almost always a child between the ages of 2 and 5. And what would happen is that this child would begin to claim that they had memories of being someone else in a past life. And not only would they make this claim, they would begin to use language that's unusual for a child, adult language, and they would use gestures and have facial expressions that were unusual for a child but appropriate for the identity of the person they claimed to be in their past life. Now, what would usually happen is by around age 5 or 6, the child would begin to lose their memories. Usually by age 8, the memories would be gone altogether. But those strange way of talking and gesturing and this adult way of carrying themselves and behaving, that would persist for some time afterward, even after their memories were already gone. So this is an example of the use of clinical investigation to study the possibility of reincarnation. But as I mentioned, there's also another method. And this method is what's often called regressive hypnosis. And the most famous practitioner of this type of method is a psychiatrist named Paul Weiss, who in 1988 published the best-selling book, Many Lives, Many Masters. And he tells us that in 1980, he met a patient who he called Catherine. Catherine obviously is a pseudonym. And he met this patient named Catherine, and he put her into a hypnotic state. And during that state of hypnosis, Catherine began to make a claim that she had been other people in past lives. Now, at that time, Paul Weiss was not a believer in reincarnation, but he did become intrigued by what he heard because it was just so surprising that Catherine would make such claims out of the blue. So he took the time and made the effort to go find some public records and see if he could corroborate her story. And what he found was that the public records did indeed support her claim that she was someone else in a past life. Since 1980, Paul Weiss claims to have conducted more than 4,000 hypnotic regressions with various patients, and he has found this time and time again, these cases where patients claim to have past life memories. So these are the two basic methods of investigating claims for past life memories. There's clinical investigation, and there's also regressive hypnosis. And of course, both of these methods only yield circumstantial, indirect evidence. Even if we think that the evidence is true, we cannot claim that this undoubtedly and incontrovertibly proves the existence of reincarnation. Now, the Sun Buddhist tradition in general, and Sun Master Songdam in particular, makes the claim that we don't have to rely on such indirect methods to find out the true nature of our own existence, to answer the question of whether some part of us existed before our physical bodies were born, and will some part of us exist after the death of our physical bodies. Sun Master Songdam tells us that we can resolve the question of the nature of our birth and death through the practice of sun meditation. And in our own lived experience and through our own perception, we can answer our own questions about the nature of human birth and death. So why don't we once again enter into meditation and listen to the Dharma speech of Sun Master Songdam as he teaches us how to use sun meditation to conquer the issue of birth and death.
정종소식몰자며 불용여하 우약하로다 나모 도취일의다. 나야 의거의례 의자가 아니니라. 정종 소식은 몰자입니다. 불법에 바로 깨달음으로 들어가는 진리의 법문은 별로 중생들이 들을 때 별로 재미가 없어. 그러나 불용여하 우약하여 여하약하를 묻지를 말고 다 화두를 들고 청진을 해가는데 많이 도치 일의단이여 무엇을 보거나 들을 때 의심이 나. 저것은 뭐 어떻게 해야 하는가? 이것은 어떻게 하는가? 부처님 경전을 보더라도 여러 가지로 의심이 날 수가 있는데 그 의심을 우리 사량 분별로 따져서 이론으로 따져서 알려고 하지 말고 다 이목구로 돌아오라고 말이야. 이목구를 챙기고 또 챙겨서 의거의례 의자가 아니다. 의심에 가고 의심에 와서 자꾸 그렇게 해가다 보면은 하려고 안 해도 제절로 이목구 화두가 들려지게 된다고 말이에요. 밥을 먹을 때도 이목구, 옷을 입을 때도 이목구, 화장실에 가서도 이목구, 설거지를 할 때도 이목구, 차를 타고 갈 때도 이목구, 일을 할 때도 이목구. 이렇게 해서 제절로 의단이 동로에서 화두가 성성하게 되면은 어떤 찰나에 그 의단이 툭 터져서 통 밑구녕 빠지듯이 의단을 타파하게 되면은 내가 가지고 있는 자성불을 깨닫게 되는 것이다. 그러면 그것이 바로 지수화풍 사대로 뭉쳐진 이 똥과 오줌과 고름이 가득 찬 이 몸뚱이를 가지고 있지만은 그대로 이 몸뚱이가 바로 부처님이 되는 것이다 그 말이에요. 아플 때는 아프고 바쁠 때는 바쁘고 괴로울 때는 괴롭고 슬플 때는 슬프지만은 그 속에 영원히 파묻혀서 얽매임을 당하지 아니하고 그 속에서 더 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫게 되는 것이니 인생으로 태어나서 할 것은 오직 이것밖에는 없다. 사람이 살아가려면 돈도 필요하고 명예도 권리도 힘도 다 필요는 하지만은 그것 때문에 우리의 목숨을 바칠 일이 아니고 우리가 목숨 바칠 일은 나의 생사 문제를 해결하기 위한 일대사 문제. 어디서 언제 무엇을 하거나 간에 이목구를 턱 틀고 나가면 살아가면서 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫게 되니 우리의 인생의 본업은 생사 없는 진리를 깨달아 가지고 영원한 행복을 얻는 데 우리의 본업이 바로 거기에 있는 거고 그 밖의 일은 부업이에요. 그렇게 알고 인생을 살아가면 흥망성쇠 속에 살면서 흥망성쇠를 초월하게 되고 생사윤회 속에서 살면서 생사 없는 진리를 깨닫는 길이 바로 여기에 있다 하는 것입니다.
So I have a confession to make. When I first met my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, I did not believe in reincarnation. As someone who was educated and had grown up in modern society, I, like mainstream scientists, believed that when we die, when the body dies, the consciousness will disappear. And for many years after I met my teacher, Sun Master Songdam, he occasionally asked me Do you still not believe in reincarnation? So finally, I decided, well, maybe I should research this question in a way that makes sense to me. And so I began to read and do a lot of research. And actually, the information that I've presented on this special two-part series comes from my own personal investigation of this question. And over time, after looking at all of the data and hearing all of the arguments, I too came to believe in the doctrine of reincarnation. And I can tell you from personal experience that when you come to believe and take seriously the idea of reincarnation, it completely changes and transforms your understanding of your own personal identity and the nature of living and dying. With regard to the question of identity, you begin to realize that the personality that you have right now, the body that you have right now, is not all of you. It's a temporary version of you. And that you literally will become someone else in another lifetime. In terms of how we change our view of living and dying, what you begin to realize, or what you begin to believe or know when you believe in reincarnation, is that literally there is no birth and death. It seems to be an undying consciousness that changes bodies the way we change our clothes. Of course, it's a much more difficult process than that. But our bodies may become born and die. But the thing within us that's really us, there is no being born and there is no dying. So your view of life is magnified from not just viewing your life as the birth and death of this one body, but a series of births and deaths across what seems to be an eternal life. Now, of course, all of these things can't be proved. And there are a lot of people in the modern world who will say something like, well, at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen to us after we die. So when I get there, I'll deal with it. But right now, the really important thing is to live. I'm going to live in the present moment. I want to be present. I want to be here now. This is real living. Why be upset about something that we can't control and that hasn't happened yet? And people who make this kind of claim often think that that approach to living is the most authentic and honest. But I would like to suggest here that actually, that way of looking at things, I feel, is not authentic and not entirely honest. How can we ignore what is going to happen to us? Imagine that you are on a boat, on a pleasure cruise, on a beautiful luxury boat on a river. And on that boat, you can do anything you want. You have all these games that you can play and all these fun people to hang out with. And it's really very beautiful. And the boat is traveling down this beautiful river with clear skies above and beautiful trees and scenery around you. But you know, at the end of that river is a waterfall. And the boat will go over the waterfall. The boat will be destroyed, and so will everyone on the boat. I want to ask you, how much fun are you going to have on that boat ride? When you know what's going to happen to you, won't there be a secret anxiety? Even if you have fun during the day, won't you go to sleep at night a little bit disturbed, a little bit worried about where all this is going, a little bit feeling like this whole boat ride is kind of meaningless when you know it's going to go over the edge of a cliff? And I think modern people, this is how they live. There's this emphasis on learning how to live. I have to learn how to conduct my relationships and get the right education and get the right job and get married and have children and plan the future. And I want to live a life of meaning. And I would like to suggest that when you only concentrate on living and ignore the fact of dying, you're really only living half a life. And you are ignoring a reality that will cause all of this anxiety within you. If you really want to live an authentic life, you not only have to know how to live, you also have to know how to die, how to accept the reality of aging, the reality of becoming weaker with age, of becoming possibly sick, and ultimately of losing the only life that we have ever known. When we avoid this question, we are compromised emotionally and otherwise. Now, this is perhaps the most important question in our lives. What is to become of us? And what I would like to suggest to you is that if this is such an important issue in our personal lives, so let's not let external authorities decide for us and tell us what's going to happen to us. Whether it's a mainstream scientist who tells us that the consciousness is destroyed, whether it's a parapsychologist who tells us that consciousness survives, whether it's a religious clergy person like me, a Buddhist monk, saying that, well, there's this doctrine of reincarnation. Let's not let other people tell us what's to become of us. When we have this practice of sun meditation, in which it is claimed that through our own effort and through our own perception, we can resolve for ourselves the mystery of our own life and death. We can look within ourselves, and perhaps there we can find something within, something luminous, something mysteriously alive that may survive the death of our body. This brings us to the end of our two-part series concerning the question, is there life after death? I hope you found the information and knowledge that has been shared useful. I have certainly found this kind of information useful in my own practice of sun meditation. The time is up. Once more, I will conclude this episode with the traditional Buddhist greeting, may we all attain enlightenment. And once more, I will thank all of you, our viewers, for watching another one of our programs.